Okay, so this is the third Jagdpanther video, and before I get started, I actually wanted to catch anyone up who's following along and did the first two videos before I modified them. You'll have this extra piece along the side of the hull here, and what you actually want to do is, and I'm sorry about this, just detach this piece. Shouldn't be too hard to get it to come off. You want to actually trim these off. And then when you reattach this, instead of this sitting under, you actually want to sit this on top of the side there. And there's like a little slot in the back where this almost sits up against the side. Hopefully you can kind of find that slot where this should sit on top and press up against the superstructure back instead of slipping underneath it at all. Anyways, re-glue the pieces like that and you should be okay to continue with the current model you have. The newly updated template's a little bit more accurate, but you should be able to make do with what you have. Okay, so I'm now going to continue on. And what we want to start out with is just like a little chunk of cue card paper and some glue. Actually, just cut a square of it. Now this is maybe 1.5 millimeters long and or 1.5 centimeters long and 2 centimeters wide. And you can see I've got one side done already. Basically what you want to do is push this gun base down to level and then glue this piece in to make a side for it. And we're doing this now because when we close up the sides you can't get access in from the side, and if the bits fall in when you're trying to place them, it's kind of a pain, so it's a little easier to do it now. You should be able to slip a little piece of cardboard in there. And don't worry, obviously, if it overshoots anywhere. And it can be sometimes a challenge to get like glue to stay in the spot where you put it. So quite often I'll take a little bead of glue and rebond both areas where this thing needs to sit. And then just leave that to dry. And when it is dry, you take a scraper blade and just cut it off flush with the front of the superstructure. And that should get you the gun base now level and secure. But there doesn't need to be anything at the back. We're going to cover that later. So moving on, we want to put on the hull sides. And this will sort of cinch up the design of the structure. So let's take, you can see the arrows should point approximately to the center of these circles. And this should meet there, and that should meet there. It should all be the same length. So we can take, because actually there's nothing, it's kind of hard to set it in place because there's nothing for it to really click against on the sides, where most of the models there actually is something there. So I'm going to actually place the patches on now. And that should make it a little bit easier to get this into position. Okay, I'm going to go for a little bit of a heavier glue now, though. And I'm going to take pretty much straight glue, or 4-to-1 glue. I think this is straight. It's a little bit thick for my liking, but you really want a nice thick bead of glue along this leading edge. So I'm going to use full strength, which I almost never do. Here to bond those patches to. Make sure that that's not flexed at all or warped. I want to place this as carefully as possible. Kind of use the patches to pull it in up against the side of the hull there. Now if your model doesn't want to quite sit in the right place, this is a great time to actually modify its shape a little bit. So grab some small patches. And you can kind of push this back in till it fits flush with the back of that. Just patch that on. The front should come up a little bit over, like it should crest the front of the superstructure here, and just have a little bit of a nub overshooting, and this blue line kind of shows you where it attaches to the superstructure. So if you get that on, then the other side should be much easier to do. Because what little modifications you needed to make to its shape have been made already, and usually you can dispense with putting the patches on first, but I do recommend using them. The one thing that's kind of annoying about this side is that little bit of fall in a few times while you're trying to set it in there in the correct place. But it should be pretty easy to get out again. Just keep at it. And one nice thing about not having the patches on it is you can see exactly that you're placing it correctly. Or not, as the case may be. Get it in place. Just hold it for a second. Try to avoid any overhang on the bottom. So you want the whole bottom and the bottom of this piece to be totally flush if you can get that. And quite often you'll have to push the back, you'll have to cinch up the back in to meet up. hold it for a second, and then you can add patches afterwards. It's a little bit extra long. Oops. And you don't want to use thick glue for patches. It's just, you get too much glue on there, and then they warp and look funny. Alright, and that'll get us to the next step. Thanks for watching. Hope you like this video. See you guys soon.